Steve Flink has covered Pete's career from start to finish. His new book, Pete Sampras, Greatness Revisited, is just out from New Chapter Press, and we are very pleased to welcome journalist, author, and member of the International Tennis Hall of Fame class of 2017, Steve Flink, back to TC Live. Steve, before we dive into the book, it occurred to me as I was getting ready for this that it has to be a long time since you were not at the U.S. Open covering this tournament. How long has it been?
Well, let's try 1970, Brett. I was in college. I had to go back over to England to be with my father. So since 65, that's the only one I've missed. And it's a strange feeling watching your telecast and looking at these as relatively empty grounds and saying, why am I not there? It's a very odd feeling.
It's odd for all of us, Steve. But let's dive into this book because Pete is such a fascinating character. Lots been said and written about his career. What inspired you to sort of take a second look at it now?
I felt that the timing was right, that he was being somewhat overlooked because of this golden era of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. And when he left the sport, Brett, he was considered by many the greatest tennis player of all time. And then they all surpassed Pete's record of 14. And you know the numbers now with Roger and Rafa and Novak. So I just felt the timing was right and that he should be re-examined. That's why I call the book Greatness Revisited. It was time to revisit him and comprehensively examine his multitude of achievements.
So Pete was and is a pretty private person. He let the fans see a piece of his personality, but was guarded for the most part. What in the book would Sampras fans be maybe surprised to learn about him?
Well, whether they'd be surprised or not, I don't know. I thought he was very forthcoming and very reflective in a deeper way than maybe he had been while he was playing. And then I think what makes the book adds dimensions to the book, Brett, are the observations and reflections of so many of his rivals, the likes of Rafter and Edberg and even Nisevich and Courier and Chang, and then even some comments from the young Novak Djokovic, thinking back to the days when he idolized Pete as a youngster. So I believe they add layers to the book, and Pete himself there was any one surprising thing that he said, but his range of comments I thought was from a different perspective now, 18 years after he played his last match.
Playing surfaces have changed quite a bit since Pete stepped away in 2002. In particular, Wimbledon is very different. The grass is slower. The balls are heavier. Do you believe Wimbledon set up the way it is now that Pete would have won there as much as he did?
Oh, I don't have any doubt at all, Brett. I think he would have made these courts look a lot. We talk about the slower grass. I think Pete Sampras on this grass would have made it look a good deal faster. And I think if you look at these three guys right now, or any of the players, they don't really play anybody who relentlessly attacks the way Pete Sampras does. I don't think he would have compromised that much. I think in these conditions, the only change would have been maybe he stays back behind 40% of his second serves, but he would have been barreling forward otherwise. There's an interesting chapter near the back of the book, Brett, about imagining Sampras against Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. And again, I got comments from a lot of the other players, and he came out of that rather well. No, I think he would have adjusted to the slower courts and made his impact and just made some certain revisions in his game, but he would not have compromised much.
Quick change of topics before we go. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary this month of the original 9 in women's pro tennis and the breakaway tour that they started with Virginia Slims. And you were connected to that through Gladys Heldman, who was instrumental in getting the sponsorship from Virginia Slims and helping them establish what they established. Make the connection for us of how you were involved in, and what a pivot point that was for the women's tennis that we have today.
Well, Brett, that involvement came really a few years later when I got to know Gladys well. I wasn't actually there when she started this in 1970, along with Billie Jean and the other members of the original 9. But I came to know an awful lot about it through talking with Gladys and working closely with her at World Tennis Magazine. So that was the connection, was that we became very close friends, Gladys and myself, because I went to work for World Tennis Magazine in 1974. So it was really more retrospectively learning all of the history through Gladys. And then recently I interviewed all of the original 9 for the USTA, for their website, to talk about their recollections of that period. But it was mainly my friendship and association with Gladys.
We're going to continue paying tribute throughout the month to the original 9. The new book from Steve is called Pete Sampras, Greatness Revisited. I've got my copy. Hope you'll get yours, Steve. Good to chat with you. Stay safe, and let's do this in person again really soon.